All right.
Yeah.
You're up.
Well, hey everyone. Thanks. Like Andy said, we will try to keep it short. We wanted to invite Christina. Do you want to say anything first? And then we can jump on into more specifics.
Yeah. I actually had a moment when I was logging on. I was like, oh, wow, this is really happening. Because Celia and Kara know very well that I've been carrying this for 3.5 years. Just so it's been a lot. And I like had this moment where I was like, wow, we're growing. Like, this is exciting. I like took me a minute to like just think about that. And I was like, we've morphed, we've grown, we're still growing. And I just had this thought like, okay, God, wow, this is really happening. And I'm really grateful for Team Lloyd over here. It really is like a dream come true. They told us in April, we go back, what, 10 years, I think?
At least
10 years. And so, we never thought in a million years that they'd find their way to Catalyst Church, but God had a way of doing that. And it's funny because we all started we served together in guest services almost a decade ago. And that's where we started. We were greeting, we were doing all the things. And so side by side, and it's just really exciting to see God kind of bring it full circle. So anyways, just had like a moment, which I don't have a lot of time to do normally, but Jeremy put the kids to bed, so I had the moment to really like reflect. And it was beautiful. And then I thought like, wow, we're a church of, let's say, 500 to 600 people, conservatively. We see 400 of those on a Sunday, and then another 200 that are tuning in online, that are engaging us all throughout the week. Can you pray for me? Doing things, but we maybe haven't seen their faces. And I was like, it's very clear to me that God is shifting us and growing us and reorganizing us so that we can really prepare for the 1,000. Really, and that's kind of this next season. I'm amazed at what God's doing. It's terrifying on one hand, because you're like, wow, God, we're growing very fast. Which, on the other hand, wow, you're so faithful. You're sending the leaders, you're right sizing roles. Thank you, Jesus. Kara, I know you've been so faithful to hold a lot. Celia, you have been such a nimble player. You started in admin, and then you've morphed and grown into bringing those skills even over to next steps and freedom and all the things. I'm just amazed at what God's doing. He's stretching all of us. Leanne, carving out your own role. I know you're not with us right now, but Leanne carving out her connector role, which she does so well, and is so necessary. It's like it's filling a gap that we had on the team. And I'm just really excited to see where God's taken this team. And, I know Rainbow, we've been talking about this for a while, and you are finally stepping in. So we're excited this is happening. Excited next step. Celia, we're bringing that, your team into the team, the guest services umbrella team. I think it's going to be a really powerful team. Honestly, I'm just really excited. There's no challenge we cannot face together. So anyways, yeah, I just wanted to kind of set that up. I'm really excited. I think big picture vision. And I think Celia, I don't know if we've talked to you quite as much about it. I know Kara and I've had these conversations. I know Leanne and I have had these conversations that one of the things I know about Rainbow, Andy, is they know how to grow and scale a team. And Rainbow has an incredible eye to pick people out, develop them, and raise them up and get out of the way. That's what she does. Like, you do it really well. She does it like it's like second nature to her. And so I'm excited to see Rainbow, your ability to get in there with with greeters in particular, and really raise up some leaders and give it the attention that it needs. And that way Kara can continue to scale and grow on the hospitality side. It's just, we're growing to that point where we need to specialize and grow and raise up team. And I'm excited that when you replace yourself, which you will do very quickly, I know, that you'll be able to come alongside of Andy and support him as a whole for all of the the guest services side, the ministry ops, and as we all know, it has to work together seamlessly for it to work. So I'm excited. I'm a big fan of cross collaboration and training. So I think that's a really incredible team when we can pinch hit where we need to, and we can cross train and we can trade players. And so I'm excited to see that happen. So anyways, is that helpful? That's my heart. That's what's on my heart. And I can't think of a more amazing team, honestly. I'm really excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right. Oh, well, as Christina said, we are super excited. First, thank you, Kara, for being the most patient person on the face of the earth. Our summer did not go as according to plan. We had a lot more events happen than we had anticipated, and she has just every time I told her the next crazy thing that happened, she was like, sure, I'll wait. And I appreciate that more than you know. And then she was kind enough to say we could do this together, the greeting team. And she's going to focus on the admin piece, and I'm going to do some of the training and the team building stuff. So I'm very excited to be able to do that with her. And Christina, if you have not gotten Kara's email, we need to have her church account reset. So just throwing that in there while we're doing this so she can get her email. That's important to all of us.
I have it on my phone. I just can't, I forgot my password, like a lot of passwords, and I can't reset it because it says the admin has to. So like I can't log into it on any other thing except for my phone that has the password saved.
That's okay. I can reset that.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'm not sure if we did a next steps email for you, if that would be helpful. I've really left it up to people on, unless it's like, like, hey, it makes total sense. But if it's like, hey, I think we need one, we can. So you let us know if that helps you as we go forward in terms of organizing yourself.
All right, thank you. I didn't want to miss that tonight because I know how helpful emails are. That being said, like Christina said, we go back in this area a long time, so much so that I actually met Andy when he was an usher and I was a greeter. So that is how we ended up together. So these teams have a special place in our heart for a whole host of reasons. But I think one of the things guest services really matters to me is because it can impact whether a person comes back to the church or not. It can impact their whole experience on what the remainder of the service is going to be like, and whether they're open to it and really willing to receive it. I know pre-COVID, there were statistics that people chose or decided their impression of a church within the first 2 minutes that they were there. So that is the 2 minutes that we all work together to make that happen. I think now after COVID, everybody's watching online, so they might come with a preconceived notion, but I think that 2 minutes is still just as important because they're physically there and they're trying to decide if what they've seen on screen is really how they're going to feel now when they walk in. So for me, it's all about environment and how we can set that so the Holy Spirit can show up and do his work. So I think all of the pieces intertwine and relate together so very much for the umbrella of guest services. And for us, that's 5 different teams. That is Kara with hospitality. So as soon as they walk into the bathroom, all of the things are set out, or if there are folks that have been there with us for a while, they walk into the Dream Team center and, you see great conversations happening over a sandwich or a banana or all of those things. So all of those little pieces get together and start to create that environment by what you, Kara, and the hospitality team do. And then our greeters, we'd really like to get to to the place where, we've got more folks on that team and we can fill even more positions than what we currently have. We've got some great ones going right now. I would love, like in the future, to have somebody at the door on would want to, so nobody ever has to actually open a door to get into church. That's done for them, because we're that intentional about the handoff from place to place to place along the way. And we're going to make some, early on, some small changes just so you guys will know. Like this Sunday, we're going to move some of the actual spots for the greeters. We're gonna, now that we have ushers in the sanctuary at both doors, we're gonna make sure that those spots match up as close as possible, because being seamless with the teams, make sure that we do a handoff from one team to the next very well. So as we greet somebody and they walk in, particularly at those two doors, the main door to the sanctuary and the one by the elevator bank, you want to hand off from one team to the next. And I think that is extremely important before service, but definitely once service starts. It also minimizes distractions, which helps make someone's experience there as smooth as possible. And we'll work on, some more, Kira and I are going to do some training with the greeters. Andy's already done some with the ushers, and then maybe, in a couple of months we can kind of all get together and do that. But then also just making sure our folks are like trained for the eye for the new person. We always want to, welcome and see the folks that we know. That's always, we want everybody to have that experience, but we also really want to be aware, because especially if you're at certain, serving at certain spots, you kind of, notice the deer in headlights look when somebody walks in and they're, kind of looking around, where do I go? What do I do? Of all just being able to help get them in, help get them seated, and along the way, help make them realize that we want to connect with them afterwards at guest reception. And that's then the handoff to Leanne's team and what they're going to be there and doing, and just making sure all those teams ahead of her are able to be there and help direct people to that spot, so we can actually connect with them, answer any questions they might have, to share a little bit about the church there, so we can hopefully then direct them to the end spot, which is Celia and Next Steps, and really make sure that everybody that's doing guest reception, the end goal then is to help them know how to take a person to Next Up, so we really can get plugged in. So all of these teams in our minds are very interconnected, and how they function and they build along the way. So that's, it's really important that while we have 5 separate teams and we want to go ahead and make the split with Kara and Leanne's team, we want hospitality to be separate than guest reception. I know, we've in the past used folks for both spots, but we want folks to have a primary leader, and to know who that leader is, and to make sure that they're really in the place that makes the most sense for them to serve, that they're serving in the place where they're wired for. So if that's really, out talking to somebody and connecting, that's, on guest reception. But if it's more, they really like some of the other things behind the scenes and setting things out and preparing them and helping create that environment, we want to make sure that they're with Kara and hospitality. And I think we really want folks to have that primary leadership spot. So we're asking, when we bring new folks onto guest services, for the first 3 months that they pick one team to serve on. And that's not only important that they learn the team and the function and the role, but also it's about relationship with the leader and that person. You want time then to be able to, kind of help get them acclimated, not only to the team, but often, they're new to the church too, and be able to help make them have some of those connections with other folks. still part of the serving team, but, you know, part of the bigger family that is Catalyst. So we're asking that they serve 3 months there. If it's not the right fit, that's okay. We always know, you know, sometimes the first fit is not the right fit, but if they can hang out for a while, you can get to know them. Hopefully then, if it's not the right fit, you can help direct them to the team that is, and maybe that's another one on guest services, or maybe it's one of our other serving teams. We know while we initially build, we might have some folks that need to help serve on, you know, multiple teams, particularly certain Sundays where we're short in areas. But we would rather that communication go through you guys than folks kind of randomly serving here and there, and they're not being as clear lines of communication. So we want to try to just make sure that everybody's squared away with their excuse me, main leader. And then when we need the help between each other, we all just have great lines of communication and can reach out. You know, there are a couple people, like Andy and I were talking, Monty's one that, you know, he serves on Usher some and then on ours, but it was trying to like, are you scheduling for this? Or is he going to be here with me on that? And then it was like, well, Monty, where's your heart? We want you to be. And he's like, it's really with the greeters. And I said, when for our team. So, and he's, you know, was like, okay. And then we can do that. But if there's ever a Sunday, you know, we know his heart. We know he's been around too. If there's ever a Sunday where they're really short and we need an ask, we know that he's somebody that we might be able to ask, but we'll know kind of going forward, he's going to get his main communication from Kara and I, and that's kind of how that's going to, you know, go and run.
Yeah.
So I think also doing it this way lets us kind of build a pipeline for serving, because for me, I think ushers and greeters are easy on. It's an easy on-ramp spot. They're not huge, big asks. I think hospitality can also be that at times. And then you look to see people who are doing really good jobs there. Those are the people then over time you might want to kind of tap to say, hey, maybe guest reception is good for you. We can identify these are people that connect well with others. These are people that understand the church and understand kind of what we're trying to do here. And we kind of can, you know, start to pull and build some of that team from people that we've identified that are strong in some of these other areas. And then long term, the help is to get or is to find some of those people. And this is how we can use guest reception then, is to find some help for Celia too, because that she cannot take that alone forever. So we'd really like to have people to help there, but we also want the right people to help. I think that's the thing that Andy and I are really looking at, is trying to take some of the wonderful stuff that is already there, maybe add a tad more structure to it, and then help identify the right people at the right spots. As Christina said, and you guys have been to the Believe lunches and dinner, like we really, you know, think God is working here. I mean, it's a huge reason why we decided to call Catalyst home, is you feel God working every Sunday morning, and we are seeing tangible people show up as results for that. So some of what we are trying to do right now isn't just for where we are now, but it's where we're headed in the next year and after that. So there might be moments where it seems like that's kind of a lot right now with the amount of people that we have. Why are we doing so much? Well, it's because we're building for where we're headed, not where we are. And so if you've ever got a question about any of that, always, you know, reach out to us. Sometimes it might not always immediately match up, but there is, you know, there is a reason behind it. There is an end goal. There's a thought in that of kind of where we're trying to get and what we're going to try to do.
That's good.
So I think, you know, trying to get some SOPs squared away and up to date for all of the teams. Trying to make sure that we've got some good training that we've done or will be doing soon. And then, like I said, before the end of the year is over, trying to get an event where all of our teams are together and we kind of share a little more with them of how we all connect. But in the meantime, trying to get each of those teams, in the best shape they can be in, for where we are right now and where we're headed. Is that?
No, I think that's great. I think you touched on a lot, and you touched on it all well. I think for not to reiterate anything you just said, but like we're stepping into teams that, with the exception of the one that I have jumped into the most recently, most of these teams are had really good leadership get them where they are today. And so that saves a whole lot of legwork and sweat and energy in what
Absolutely.
I'm having to do, and specifically in you to use your words, we're able to stand on some shoulders now and
Yeah.
build for where we want to go. And then I had the opportunity to come alongside some of the guys who were on the Usher team and maybe build a little bit more to help us out for where we are in the immediate and get there quickly so that we can start building. But what I would ask is, as we have the opportunity, Rainbow and I, to serve alongside y'all, is to work with us on like a lot of the things that we are able to do in vision casting and carrying and being leaders of teams in guest services that are culture carriers, and everybody that's on one of our teams, greeters, ushers, whatever, are very much so reflections of the DNA of the church. And so just help us recognize that. And to touch on what you just did, if we recognize it in someone that's not yet a part of our team, help us identify them, because y'all have way more relational capital in our church than we do at present. So help us with that and help us know who's not yet on our team that needs to be. And then when they are serving, we want to, as we employ everything that you just outlined, help just kind of define the win and make it a simple, understandable win for them when they jump on a team to serve with us on a Sunday morning. Sometimes that's easy to speak to in the moment, and sometimes it requires training, and all of that will be done. But we just want to be able to lead that with you and protect it and shore it up and strengthen it so that we can just, as you said earlier, and so did Christina, scale it to grow it. And I think that's exciting. I think it's genuinely exciting. We have already, this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but just some simple things that have already kind of occurred that you touched on when you started speaking was, the Usher team, I know, had a really clear understanding of being outside the door on a Sunday. And I wanted to address that and change that for a couple of reasons. One is we'll get more out of the Usher team if we just have them focused on bodies and processes inside the auditorium and allow the greeters to focus on things outside the auditorium. And then when that guest goes inside those doors, that's a clear example of what she talked about with a team handing off, for lack of a better term, a person to another team. Those ushers are worried about different things than the folks outside the door are worried about. And so it's just a little bit, it's easier to train to that, and it's easier to just kind of it's easier to narrow the scope of what they're doing. So there'll be little tweaks like that. And as we tweak little things like that, and some may be larger, again, we're coming into this thing as it's a plane in the air, and we're helping build it and continue build it and make it stronger while it's flying. So there may be some folks who have questions that they don't yet know us well enough to articulate those questions. If they ask you, answer them. If you don't know, ask us. But we'll be leaders together and help them feel like they we want them to feel always like they're a valued member of the team, but we just need to underscore that together with you guys. Does that make sense how I just worded that?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
um
I think trying to understand who our team is Kara and I were like Sunday, we went through everybody on the list and we're like, have we seen them lately? You know, where are they? Are they here? And she reached out to a couple of folks. And so just making sure that we've got good rosters of who's actually, you know, there, so we can make sure those are the people that we're, you know, as leaders taking care of. And if somebody's, you know, scheduled to serve, and you know, we know life happens, believe me, we have dealt with it the past summer, so we understand like certain seasons, maybe it's, you know, a season that they need a break for, you know, a month or two, or maybe it you know, is something like you know, they just need to transition to a different team or something like that. But we want to make sure, you know, if somebody isn't serving regularly, that we're in communication with them, we know what's going on, and we can, you know, be there and kind of help walk alongside of them to help find whatever is the right thing for them in that time. So knowing who your team is, and knowing, you know, being part of their lives, and being in regular contact with them is important. So we want to do that, you know, definitely with the individual teams that we lead, but with you guys collectively as guest services as a whole too.
I think on that note too, I think that's going to be really key as we grow. I think even right sizing roles, and because you can only like care for so many people so well.
Right.
So I think that's the piece where, you know, as you grow, you know, a lot of people, you'll hear people say like, oh, well, you know, that church is just too big for me. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. And so, okay, we got to think through, like, number one, you know, Jesus is building his church and healthy things grow. So, and his heart is that no one would not know him, right? Like, so clearly it's primed to grow. A healthy church is going to grow. But how do we, and this is the challenging part, this is the challenge of the day. How do we continue to care and know people by name while also still growing? And, you know, the easy answer is we need to raise up leaders of leaders, right? Of caretaker, right? People that are able to care for smaller groups of people. Teams are right size so that no one feels like, you know, Kara, I'll put you on the spot, but it was impossible. You had so many people. There's just no way without raising up other people to help care for pockets of people. We had a sort of a chance when you had a co-lead, but then when the co-lead didn't work out, then it was like, it was impossible task. So, you know, I think that's another, like, the heartbeat is like, how do we continue to know people? You know, my focus, Jeremy's focus is 100% on you all. Like that's where we want our attention, because you know, and of course we also do pastoral care, but like teen groups and serve teams are the pastoral care arm, right, of our church. So this is you know, that's why it's just so important to hold these two in tension, right? Growth and care. So.
And I think that's a good point. I mean, we get that you have lives. We have separate lives too. I work for the Social Security Administration, usually 45 hours a week. Andy, you know, spends time with the Air Force as a chaplain. So we understand, we want to make sure we know serving and doing that. We have a small child, all the life things. We get that. So if we ask you if you're okay, it's out of genuine care to make sure you're okay, because we know how hectic and crazy life can get and how much when there's a million things going on. So, you know, that we as leaders will also be checking in on you guys and asking you, because we want to make sure you stay healthy and you stay good. You know, it's not just that the teams stay good. We really think you know, want to support you in every way possible too. That's
Sure.
a you know, a high priority for us.
Yeah, I'm gonna pray for you every day.
Absolutely.
And I want to ensure and, you know, challenge y'all to do the same thing if you're not already praying for the people that you lead, and tell them when you have one of them pop on your mind, shoot them a text and let them know. I think we're at I'll say this, and then if you have something else, chime in. I don't want to hold them too late because it's getting close to my bedtime. but but I have been part of churches of varying sizes in my life, from small churches to medium-sized churches to large-sized churches, and it was never the size of the church that really made me feel like I belonged. It was the care that I felt like, and the level of belonging, community. I didn't know those words when it came to church at the time, but it was genuinely people that made me feel something, not what I was taught, not what the emotions of a Sunday, all those things were fun, and we were Pentecostal, so they were real fun emotions on Sunday morning. But it was how they made me feel. And I think, to Rainbow's earlier point, from the moment somebody walks in the door in the lobby or the door at Woodmont to the moment they walk back out to head back out into their work week. Pastor Jeremy has said numerous times in the short time we've been a part of this church that we are living with Monday as a mission. And so we have the opportunity to minister and to love on people without even a note of a song being sung or a word of a sermon being preached. And I love that component of these types of ministries, is when they're done well. You just really have the opportunity to connect with people in ways that give space for the Holy Spirit to do some things that all you're trying to do is shake a hand or give them a packet or move a chair. And I think that's special, because it's a very, very easily overlooked. They don't trump that type of ministry in seminary or Bible college. And I've been through both of those, so I know. But serving is a special place, and it's a special thing. And so it's a privilege to do that with you. So
Absolutely.
looking forward to it.
Any questions for us?
So I have a question specifically to your one comment, Rainbow, about using like as a pipeline some of the teams to go then essentially like to guest reception and next steps. And I completely like understand and agree, but I guess how will that be advertised, so to speak, or like in terms of next steps? We have like our pamphlets with the different teams, and so do you have thoughts on how that will kind of be shared or discussed or advertised, so to speak?
Yeah, I think Next Steps is unique. I'll say that, so you can probably talk about that at great length. That's not a team somebody just gets to raise their hand and say, I want to be on, because it involves a lot of one-on-one with somebody brand new to the church. And when you are in that environment, you don't always know what kinds of questions are going to come your way. And they can vary from, what are your service times, to what's your denomination background, theology, deep theology questions. So those folks that we would put there are gonna need to have a little bit more vetting. They will have needed to be around a little longer. We will have needed to be a little more sure of where they are and what they can bring and offer to that team. So I think when I say pipeline, and that's a great question, Kara, for that, we would watch folks serve in those different roles. And then if we identify folks that are serving very well, particularly like on guest reception or something like that, that might be somebody then that we could identify to move on to Celia's team, or start to develop to move on to that. That is one of the 5 teams. That's not one that I would necessarily advertise as, oh, anybody can come join, just because it's going to require a little bit different kind of experience and different kind of ability to bring to that team. I think the other ones are things that we can advertise for folks to join and be a part of. I think for us, though, collectively as leaders of guest services, it's being in communication with one another. And when you see somebody that's doing something really well on like greeters or ushers and saying, hey, you know, like, especially once we get squared away and we have strong numbers and things like that, then, hey, maybe this is somebody that we could talk to Leanne about whether they'd want to, you know, kind of occasionally go over there and try that out and serve there. And then when she looks at people and she's got, you know, maybe some really strong people that are very faithful and, you know, maybe have fielded a couple of those questions just at guest reception, which occasionally sometimes they'll come up, you know, there too a little bit. We can already identify people that have maybe shown us some of the qualities that we would want to have at that end destination for Celia. I just think those other teams kind of help allow those folks to shine. And if we're looking for them, then we can pick them out and develop them along the way through that process. What I wouldn't ever want to do is take somebody that signed up to be a greeter and, you know, maybe they have 2 or 3 good Sundays and then send them to Celia to, you know, answer, you know, what's your position on gay marriage for the church or something like that. The you know, those questions that become much more difficult and evolve or require a lot more conversation to them. So I think in my mind, when I say pipeline, it's just that like there's not anything formal with that, but just us as leaders, how we can use those positions to kind of further develop somebody as they grow into them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I think because I mentioned next steps, I think I was focused more on guest reception because you had mentioned, and again, I had actually, before Celia had been doing her thing in next steps, I had been also trying to keep that afloat for a while.
That fell into guest services for a little while, but Kira stretched way too.
I was barely surviving.
And then I thought I could step in, and that was laughable because I was getting pulled in 1,000 different directions.
But
and I would just say too, guest steps or next steps, you know, and that's more than like us for greeters having somebody down there to send them upstairs. It's actually somebody, you know, like long-term having folks being able to physically be in the room and help Celia out and, you know, her not always having to be there every single time, or at least having help if she is there.
That's like 2 different positions, like downstairs greeter and then upstairs reception greeter while they're, you know, getting food and sitting, just because if there's 5 or 6 people or 8 people on one person, like it's,
I think
that one-on-one connection is super important, especially during that time.
I think Kara was following up her
I
question.
think so. In terms of guest reception, that's I think where I'm a little foggy in terms of, because you mentioned that kind of being like people being kind of more hand selected, and I know right now, especially Leanne, like she is heavily recruiting, and so I guess is like guest reception specifically one that will continue to advertise as a team for next steps, or is that also one that we would maybe not advertise as much, and you would more transition people from greeter and usher?
I think if she has identified people through the church and their participation already, and we're comfortable with them putting them on that team, I think we can, you know, go there. I think ideally we would like to get to a place where that team has a solid, and I'm not sure we're there right now, has a solid enough number of people that they could exist without having to advertise that, and then we could move to being a little bit more selective, and again, you guys helping identify the people that would be really great for that. I am not sure number wise we're exactly there, but I think long term that's where we would like to get with that. So it may be that we still do need to do some of that recruiting, particularly for that team, to get it especially right now, while you guys separate that out from hospitality and it, you know, folks land in the places that they're going to land, we might need to still do a little of that for hopefully that being more of the short term until we get a healthy team going. And then it would be more the greeter usher hospitality kind of start spot for us, and then through that we could use those teams to really kind of figure out who would be the best fit. Again, where we'd like to go doesn't mean we're going to get there tomorrow. So, you know, moving all the pieces around and trying to get the right people in the right spots is where we're at now. So we might have to be, you know, a little flexible until we're in a better spot with number wise.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that all makes sense. And then the only other, I guess, for like Christina, in terms of officially kind of making the hospitality split, and guest reception split, and then updating, I guess, for like next steps pamphlets as well. And I'm assuming we'll, in terms of SOP, we'll kind of pull out from the current hospitality SOP what's kind of relevant to each. So I guess, I don't know if you've thought about like timeline for that and when we'll.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now, actually, because we have our team Sunday on the 23rd, which is like a week away. And so I'm actually getting ready to share that because I realized that, Andy, I don't know that you have it, Celia. I'll make sure all of us are on it because that's the same pamphlet that we'll use for next steps. And I'm just kind of making a few edits based on a couple of changes. We've had changes on admin, we've had changes now on this team. And so just kind of briefing it. And then if we can, Celia, this weekend, can you just get a good idea of how many we have left? You may already know that, but the pamphlets, do you know about how many?
We have at least probably 15 or 20 in there. In the
Okay.
bin, unless they're somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have time to get these reprinted. So that way they're accurate for Team Sunday. And then, you know, I'll get enough that way it'll last us at least through the end of the year. And I know offline, we've also talked about new content and booklets and things like that, or at least edited content. So maybe that's like a November refresh, but for now, right now, if we only have 15 or 20, I'm definitely gonna have to get some more printed. So I will make sure I edit these to make sure they're accurate before they go out and we start adding more people to the team.
Well, we're right at 9 o'clock. You got anything yet? Yeah. We're right at 9, so I don't want to keep you any later. Thank you again for giving us 45 minutes of your night tonight. Any last minute questions before I pray and let you go?
No,
Well, let me pray. Go ahead.
no, I'm excited for, you know, just the team training. I think that'll be very beneficial because I know even for me, like there are a couple of things I'm like, hey, maybe I can review that, or like even just go over like the bullet points for next steps and like behind the scene notes and things like that. But even more so for the teams to bring them in, and it's just another touch point as well. And you brought up a good point, like the check-ins, like besides like the texts and the calls or like going to meet for coffee, but being intentional with like maybe a quarterly check-in where the team leads are actually doing a review with, you know, the different dream team members as well, like something a little bit more formal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think it keeps your roster clean, but it also gives that person permission instead of just this indefinite idea that they have, or this unintended idea that they've indefinitely joined the team, that they're disappointing somebody if they need a break from or need to transition to a different team. They never know how to broach the subject. So I think it does that for them. So,
and to that end, we also have an admin team lead gap that Andy and I can tag team on, but that gap is like Angelica was the one who would come to team leaders and say, hey, this roster is not up to date, or like, hey, we need to scrub this. And so we don't right now in this current snapshot have somebody proactively coming after us. So we're going to have to really push that towards team leads to really, hey, every quarter, we need to be scrubbing these lists, and more so, it's not just to keep, I mean, yes, you got to keep your data clean, but more than that, it's also like, where are these people?
Right.
Like,
It's
how
a
are
care
they?
component to that. Yeah. And aside from just giving them the permission to perhaps join another team, people's lives happen. And
Right.
so, you showing up, not to just find out, hey, are you still wanting to serve on the usher team, but are you good? That goes a long way. And this just kind of systematizes that for us if it becomes part of our routine. So I join you in being excited for all of that. Let me pray and let y'all go. Any other, I don't want to just shut any down. Any questions or thoughts before I do that? Okay. God, we love you. Thank you so much for just my opportunity tonight to hang out with my friends and my fellow leaders. Thank you for the privilege that it is to serve in this season, in this city, in this time. And so we just, despite all the challenges and the nuances and the uniquenesses, we just thank you that you have called us for such a time as this. And we thank you that you've called us for such a place as this and prepared us and anointed us. So we just pray that in all that we put our hands to, we just pray that you continue to expand our territory, call forth out of us as individual leaders, new gifts, new opportunities, new wisdom, and in so doing, touch lives for the kingdom at Catalyst Church. We love you so much. Bless the one day that's left of our week, and prepare us for a great weekend in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too. Good night.
Good night.
Right.